Pavajakacharya Asatar Sata Sri Srimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Mathura Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Shri Shri Gaurnitai Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1, the first step in God realization. Text number 30. Ja Akshani Chakshu Abut Patanga Pakshmani Vishnu Ahani Ube Cha Tat Bru Vijramba Parameshti Dishnyam Appa Asya Talu Rasa Eva Jiva Directionally Chaksha Abut Patanga Akshami Vishnu Ani Ubecha Tabu Vajamba Parameshti Dishnyam Apisya Talu Rasaheva Jiva Akshani Chakshu Abu Patanga Pakshmani Vishnu Ani Becha Tabruvachamba Parameshti Dishnyam Aposya Talu Rasaheva Jiva Jarakshani Chakshu Abu Patanga Pakshmani Vishnu Ani Becha Tabruvachamba Parameshti Dishnyam Aposya Talu Rasaheva Jiva
Jarakshini Chakshurabhut Patanga Pakshmani Vishnu Hani Ubecha Sadbruvashamba Parameshti Dishnyam
Drishyam.
Aposyatalu rasa eva jiva.
Pasyatalu Raseva Jiva.
Chorakshini Chakshura Bhutpatanga
Pitanga.
Akshmani Vishnurahani Ubecha Tadbruvijimba Padameshti Dishnam Aposyatalu Rasa Eva Jiva
Jayor Lakshnini Chakshurhabhut Patanga Pakshmani Vishnu Ahani Ubhecha Tadbruvrijamba Parameshi Dishnyam Aposyatalu Rasa Eva Jiva Dayor Akshini Chakshur Abhut Patanga Akshmani Vishnur Ahani Upecha Tad Bruvijramba Parameshti Dishnayam Aposyatalu Rasa Eva Jiva Chakshura Bhutpatanga Ani Vishnu Tad Bruvajamba Parameshti Drishyam Aposyatalu Rasa Eva Jiva Rakshani Chakshura Bhutpatanga Shmani Vishnu Rahani Ubecha Tahadru Vrijamba Parameshti Dishnyam Aposyatalu Rasa Eva Jiva
Darakshini Chakshura Bhutpatanga Pakshmani Vishnurahani Ubecha Tadbru Vijamba Parameshti Dishnyam Aposyatalu Rasa Eva Jiva
Tyorakshini Chakshura Bhutpatanga Pakshmani Vishnu Ahani Ubhecha Tadbrun Vrijamba Parameshti Dishnam Aposyatalu Rasa Eva Jiva
Jiao, sphere of outer space. Akshani, the eyeballs. Chakshu, of eyes, senses. Abhut, it so became. Patanga, the sun. Pakshmani, eyelids. Vishnu, of the personality of Godhead Sri Vishnu. Ahani, day and night. Ube, both. Cha and Tat, his, Bhru, eyebrows, Vishrambha, movement, Parameshti, the supreme entity Brahma, Dishnyam, post, Apa, Varuna, the director of water, Asya, his, Tala, palate, Rasa, juice, Eva, certainly, Jiva, the tongue. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The sphere of outer space constitutes his eye pits, and the eyeball is the sun as the power of seeing. His eyelids are both the day and night, and in the movements of his eyebrows, the Brahma and similar Supreme Personalities reside. His palate is the director of water, Varuna, and the juice or essence of everything is his tongue. Purport. To common sense, the description in this verse appears to be somewhat contradictory, because sometimes the sun has been described as the eyeball and sometimes as the outer space sphere. But there is no room for common sense in the injunctions of the Shastras. We must accept the description of the Shastras and concentrate more on the form of the Vrat Rupa than on common sense. Common sense is always imperfect, whereas description in the Shastras is always perfect and complete. If there is any incongruity, it is due to our imperfection and not the Shastras. That is the method of approaching Vedic wisdom. There's a statement in Sri Brahma Samhita that just ride on the airplane that travels at the speed of mind. A modern-day jet airplane can travel 2,000 miles per hour, but the speed of mind is so swift that if you're sitting here in Kansas City, if you think of India, immediately India comes to Kansas City. The speed of mind is so swift that the speed of material airplanes cannot get compared to it. And if one travels at the speed of mind for millions of years, Jai Shishi Gornatai, still he'll find that the Vaikuntha region is far, far away. So if we want to go to the Vaikuntha region, the kingdom of God, we must take the help of Krishna and Guru. Otherwise, it's not possible. Nowadays, the material scientists are trying to approach the material planets, but even if they go to Mars or Venus, that will not solve the real problem, because the real problems are birth, death, old age, and disease. From the highest region in the material world down to the lowest. Krishna says, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. One who attains to my abode never comes to this material world again. So in this verse, there's a description of the Vrat Rupa, and this is useful because it reminds us of the personality of Godhead. In every step of life, one could be reminded of Krishna by drinking water. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I'm the taste of water, I'm the light of the sun and the moon. So in every second, as we go about our business in the material world, it's possible to be Krishna conscious. And the acharyas show how this is possible. And the scientists, they're saying that it might be possible if there is intelligence on other planets. But those who accept the Vedas know that on every planet there is life, and the beings on the higher planets are so much more advanced, more intelligent, more opulent, and their duration of life is so great that compared to the beings on higher planets like Brahmaloka, that the planets on this earth are compared to little insects or ants. And Brahma is called the Pitamaha. He's the grandfather. He's the progenitor of all the living entities that we see on this planet. And Krishna is the father of Brahma. And we learn from the Srimad Bhagavatam that Lord Shiva was born from Lord Brahma. So we learn from the Vedas that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and all the demigods are temporary exhibitions of Krishna's opulence. The 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes that Brahma is my representative, and Vruna, the deity in charge of the waters, is also my representative, because they're very opulent personalities, and they're very advanced and in many qualities. And if no one is qualified to occupy the post of Brahma or the sun god, sometimes Krishna himself occupies the post of Brahma and the sun god. And the first created being is the most intelligent being. It's not like the scientists say that in the beginning there were primitive human beings, and the civilized human beings gradually developed from cavemen. But in the Vedas, the opposite is stated. The first living being is the most intelligent, and gradually in Kali Yuga, the living entities are becoming more and more degraded, as we can see every day. The atheists think that nowadays we're becoming more advanced, and those who believe in the Shastras, they're primitive. Even though the sufferings are increasing daily on this planet, still the atheists are so blind that they cannot see their fault. So we have to take the Shastras as they are. We cannot rely on our common sense. In Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 7, Prabhupada writes that in the stage of Kali, 99.9% of the population is Naradama. Naradama means the lowest of mankind. So we cannot rely or put our trust in the beliefs of the common people. By common sense, there may appear to be some contradictions in the Vedas, but it is not contradiction. It is because the Vedas are infallible. For instance, the Vedic injunction says if you touch the stool of an animal, or if one touches one's own stool, one has to immediately take bath. But there's another injunction that the stool of a cow is pure. And we have practical experience, and in India, this is still practiced. The people use dried cow dung for fuel, and this dried cow dung produces the most nectarian foodstuffs. And the stool of a cow is sweet smelling, and the cow herself her body is sweet smelling. And all the cows in this material world are descendants of Sarabi, the original cows in the spiritual world. And I was in New Vrindavan in 1973, and I had the good fortune of associating with many nice devotees there. Kirtananda Maharaj put me in charge of the garden at Bahulaban, and after I was doing the garden supervising, a nice devotee came there named Bhakta Richard, and this Bhakta Richard, he was a trained scientist, and although he was doing menial garden work, we were always concentrating on defeating the rascal scientists of Kali Yuga. And this Dr. Richard later was initiated by Srila Prabhupada in 1974, and he became Sariputta Prabhu, the great Bhaktivedanta Institute scientist, and he defeated scientists all over the world. And he also later on got his PhD in mathematics from Cornell University, so he could mingle in that elite atmosphere of academics. And he was very influential, and he created many enemies in the established scientific community, because Prabhupada wanted, when Prabhupada came to this world, he had two purposes: to establish Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and to defeat the rascal scientists. And he thanks Sri Damodar Goswami for fulfilling his mission in this world. And Sri Damodar Goswami, I was in New Vrindavan in 1979 at the grand opening of Srila Prabhupada's Palace of Gold. And at that time, Sri Damodar was initiated into the renounced order of life by Kirtananda Swami, and he became known as Bhakti Swarup Damodar Swami Maharaj. And he was very influential in defeating the scientists all over the world. So the scientists, Prabhupada said on morning walk in Venice Beach in Los Angeles in 1973, that the scientists have been cheating people for many years, for the last 200 or 300 years, but very soon, within 50 years, their cheating will be finished. Because nowadays people are becoming intelligent. They're realizing that the scientists are cheaters. Because the basic principle is Darwin's philosophy is life comes from matter. Even though there's no evidence for this, there's no evidence that a dead stone ever gave birth to a live baby, but a living being, a mother can give birth to a child. So this is proof that this is evidence that life comes from life, but there's no evidence that life comes from matter, from dead material elements. So this universe is being guided by the various demigods who are appointed servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And it's only logical that there are such beings, because we can see we're living in the creation, and in order for there to be a creation, there must be a creator. So Lord Brahma, he's very intelligent. He's the original creator of this universe. He's a secondary creator, and the primary creator is Bhagavan Sri Krishna. And even the in the Greek culture and the Roman culture, there's also acceptance of beings who are controlling the universe. They believe in the sun god, moon god, and the god of thunder, the god of rain. So these gods are not imaginary; they're factual. They may have different names in different times and places, but these demigods are real. Also in the Americas, the Native Americans also worship various demigods, and in Mexico and Central America, they built great temples to worship the sun god. Any comments or questions, Dr. Maharaj? Yes, Magadari Prabhu.
So there, sometimes I get confused about a contradiction or something that I see contradictory. When we say that the Kali Yuga has set in and degradation is actually increasing, and simultaneously we're saying that people are becoming more and more ripe for spiritual life because of the golden age. So for some reason, I can't seem to reconcile.
Yes, presently there's a polarization. Some people are becoming intelligent, but the general mass of people are becoming more and more degraded. And in the material world, the two classes of men are always there. There are the devas and the asuras. The devas are obedient to the shastra, the shastric injunctions, whereas the asuras are disobedient to the shastric injunctions. Sometimes the devas are more in number, and sometimes the asuras are more in number. And also nowadays there are many false teachers and false religious leaders in the Kali Yuga. So it's very, sometimes it seems difficult to push forth the Krishna consciousness movement, because very few people nowadays accept the Shastras. They're losing faith in the Bible and Quran. They're losing faith in the Vedas. But therefore, Prabhupada presented Bhagavad Gita as it is, Srimad Bhagavatam as it is. These two books can bring enough light to dissipate all the darkness of Kali Yuga. So these books have to be distributed far and wide in every town and village to push on the Krishna consciousness movement progressively, because in the future the devotees may fail, the temples may fail, but Prabhupada's books are eternal. This Vedic knowledge is eternal. Samagadari Prabhu.
On this point about more or less prioritizing Vedic injunctions over common sense, this seems like maybe it's a little bit scary that and it is this mean blind faith?
One has to have firm faith in Guru and Krishna, and the Vedic injunction is all the imports of the Vedas will be revealed to one as firm faith in the spiritual master and Krishna. So we should accept things in the beginning with intelligence. We could judge things with our intelligence, but the basis is Shastra, and the Guru and Sadhus speak in accordance with the Shastra. There are several types of evidence in India. There are 6 recognized philosophers, and some of these philosophers are theists and some are atheists. Like Charvak Muni, he's an example of an atheist philosopher. And there are different types of evidence. There's pratyaksha, which is direct evidence. And the direct evidence is always imperfect. Just by looking at the sun, it appears to be like a small disk. But we can understand from hearing from authorities that the sun is 93 million miles away from this Earth planet. And what we learn from the Vedas, that the sun is the closest planet, and beyond the sun is the moon. It's not, as the scientists say, and we see in the calendar of every country in the world, the first day is Sunday, and the second day is Monday. So the sun is first, and the moon is the second. That the moon is farther from the sun, so that the possibility of reaching the moon in only 4 days by traveling in a spaceship, according to the Vedas, this is impossible. So we do not accept that the astronauts ever went to the moon planet, because on every planet the atmosphere is different, and with our present bodies, it's not possible to live comfortably in the higher planets. Yes, Bhakti Damodar Prabhu.
It appears to us from our common sense that there can be no life on the sun because it's too hot. But we learn from the Vedas, there's life on the sun. There's so many living entities there. And so it doesn't make sense to common sense. So we would just reject it. But as we hear from the Vedas, more and more about the sun god. And Krishna says he spoke this science of Bhagavad Gita to the sun god. And then you read about the sun god, and there's the persons that are there, then there's a whole group of demigods, and then there's a Rakshasa there protecting, and there's horses. You start, it's a whole thing made up. And then you see that the description of the soul in the Vedas is that it's invisible because it's so small, 1/10,000th the size of the tip of the hair. But it's that small particle of the spiritual personality of God that is the life of the body, of every living entity. Now, common sense, you would say, when someone dies, you say, what happened? We don't know. That's all you can say. It's common sense. We don't know. But the Vedas say, when someone dies, he loses consciousness, the soul has left the body. So you become intrigued because it makes sense that something changed, something drastic. Because if it were just a question of ingredients of material sorts, like an engine, if an engine stops running, an expert mechanic can put it back so that it'll run. Add something, find a part that's missing or malfunctioning, and it'll work. But it doesn't happen with a living being because the soul, the spiritual particle, is left. So when we understand something like that, the soul, that's why Krishna begins by explaining the soul, that there is a aparayamitas tvanyam prakriti me param jiva bhuta mahabaho yedam dharyate jagat. Besides the material energy, the 8 material energies which Krishna described in the previous verse, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego, there's another energy of his, which is the living entity, superior energy. Well, then it starts to make sense that that's the difference, that this one type of energy has eternal life and the other has no life at all. And no matter how you chop it up or you burn it or you grind it or put it in air or water, it won't become alive because it's a different energy. Then when you start to hear things like that, and it makes so much sense, your faith starts increasing in the Vedas. And then if you take up the practice of Bhakti Yoga, chanting, especially chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, you see that this is something profound is happening. I'm losing my interest for the low pleasures, so-called pleasures, that I had before. And I'm changing my direction on what the purpose of life is. And I'm feeling happier than I felt before in material pursuits. But then my faith increases in the Vedas. Then I eat prasadam. Taste of prasadam is beyond common sense. You would think if it's just ordinary food made from ordinary ingredients, it shouldn't taste this good. It shouldn't have such an effect. The more I eat it, the more I realize, the more I realize that this slaughtering animals is horrendous. And then because there's life there, and because there's someone in charge, and there's every living entity is a soul. And all the souls are the same. So as you study the Vedas and you practice the Vedas, then you have to realize that your faith is going to be increasing. So then there's something that comes up that is a little bit more difficult for me to perceive with my common sense or my senses. And I naturally say, well, let me give it some time. I'm not going to disregard it just because I can't perceive it right now. So that's how one's faith increases. And so then he can overcome so-called common sense. We don't trust our common sense because we know Shastra Chakshusha, seeing through the eyes of the scripture, is far better.
Thank you very much, Dhanavir Maharaj. One of the Vedic injunctions is, as soon as you rise from bed, you should wash your mouth and brush your teeth and gargle. And one should do this before eating or drinking water. But at the same time, if one receives Mahaprasadam, one should immediately accept the Mahaprasadam, even if it comes from a distant place or even if it's dried up or still. And this was demonstrated in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita 500 years ago, when devotees brought Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya in Jagannath Puri. Devotees brought Mahaprasadam from Lord Jagannath, and when they came to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house, he was just rising from bed, and he had not yet brushed his teeth, but he immediately accepted this prasadam of Jagannath, and Lord Chaitanya praised him for having firm faith in the Mahaprasad of Lord Jagannath. And then atheists may say, well, how can you say that God eats? You offer this food stuff for God, and you bring the plate off the altar, and the food is there just as it was before. So how can you say God is eaten? God is omnipotent. God's senses are so powerful that he can accept the prasadam with his eyes or with any sense. And Krishna is so kind that even though he may eat everything on the plate, still he gives it back to the devotees because he doesn't want his devotees to be hungry. It's time for the Sankirtan Festival. Thank you very much for hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. All glories to His divine grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada.
So we'll read the Sankirtan scores for the week of February 27th for the pleasure of their lordship Sri Sri Gaurnitai, Sampradaya Acharyas, Srila Prabhupada, Tulsi Maharani, and all the assembled devotees, and all the non-assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. And we'll have some prasadam to distribute, and everyone can come and grab some prasadam. Can come accept some prasadam. Okay, for this week, we had 5 book distributors. In 5th position, with 1 medium book and 1 Maha big book, for a total of 2.5 book points, Radhastali Devidasi. Haribo. In 4th position, with 4 small books, 8 big books, and 11 Maha big books, for a total of 31 book points. Bhakta Jio Prabhu. Can you just give everyone like a couple cookies? Maybe like a handful of cookies? In 3rd position, with 10 small books, 1 medium book, 23 big books, and 5 Maha big books, for a total of 36 book points. Bhakta Damodar Prabhu. Haribo. In 2nd position, with 23 small books, 1 medium book, 7 big books, and 15 Maha big books, for a total of 43.25 book points. Magadari Prabhu. Haribo. And in 1st position, with 1 magazine, 4 small books, 2 medium books, 9 big books, and 26 Maha big books, for a total of 63.1 book points. Rishi Kumar Das. Hare Krishna. And that makes the RVC total for this week 41 small books, 5 medium books, 48 big books, and 58 Maha big books, for a total of 175.85 book points. Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. Can I come back to a highlight? I haven't remembered a specific one yet. Maybe Magadari Prabhu? Yeah, if that's okay.
So we went to the plaza and we were doing the Harinam, and I was going around trying to tell everybody about Prabhupada's books. And I went to a car and somebody was telling me that he had the Bhagavad Gita. He was from India. He was from a place very near the Himalayas. He looked different. I never seen somebody from India that looked like him, but that was cool to know. He said he had As It Is. He had that book, but I said, amazing, try our next book. And I gave him the JST and he was happy about it. And he gave a donation and said, Hare Krishna. Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai.
Earlier last week, I was coming down the stairs before lunch and I was wondering where Damodar and I should go. And I was remembering that Vijay Prabhu, he brings different books with him, but his goal for the day is he doesn't come back until he gets out this one box of Bhagavad Gitas. So I thought, I want to get out a box of Bhagavad Gitas. Maybe we can do that at the Indian store. And right when I walked into the temple room, there was this Indian man here and he said, I want to buy some Bhagavad Gitas. And I went and I got my phone to ring up the books. And I said, why don't you just buy a box of them? And he asked how much it was. And I told him the price. And he said, okay, I'll get those. So he got the box and he said he's going to distribute them to his friends. And whenever people have some event, he gives them one. Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai.
Haribol. Dr. Luke came over for lunch on Saturday and he wanted to distribute 2 Hidden Glory of India. So what is it called? Yeah. 2 of those to his friends. And so I gave it to him and he gave a nice $20 donation. Transcendental Books Ki Jai.
I don't really remember a highlight. It was in the beginning of the week, so maybe you could come back to me. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. I was sitting here in the temple room and I was just doing stuff. I was just doing service on my laptop and everyone was out on Maha Harinam. And that day I couldn't go. And so I was just sitting here with Gauranitai and this gentleman walks in and I've seen him come in here before, but he hadn't talked to anyone. He would just sit there and leave before prasadam served, like on Sundays, or like I've just seen him on days throughout the week, and he would just sit there by himself and then leave. And today not today, but on Saturday, he went up and donated something and was just sitting here while I was listening to some kirtan, and he came up to me and he said, Hare Krishna, it's so nice that you're so young and you're living in the temple. And I said, oh, yeah, it's nice. I'm really grateful. And then he was about to leave. And then I said, you gave a nice donation. Would you take a Bhagavad Gita? I know you already have one, but maybe you can give it to your friend. He said, oh yes, I already have one, but that's nice. I'll give it to my friend. So Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai.
$5 for a Bhagavad Gita. I can't remember. I really can't remember. Softback. They looked at it. Oh, okay, I know one. There was there was a nice boy, and I was saying that he had good style and things like that. And I was explaining the books to him, and I was explaining the philosophy a little bit. And he seemed like he was on the fence about it, but we were able to get him a Bhagavad Gita softback, and he gave a $5 donation. It was really nice. So that was a nice interaction. Thank you.